Okay, so without further ado, I'd like to welcome Dr. Corina Sandu. She is a professor of mechanical engineering at Virginia Tech, and she is also the editor-in-chief for the SAE International Journal of Commercial Vehicles. So Corina, if you want to join us on the stage, and we'll get started with your interview. I understand you got a couple of slides that you want to share with us today as well. But first, I'd really like to thank you for volunteering your time for joining us today.
Thank you very much, Angie. It is my pleasure. Thank you.
Excellent. So I know you're going to share some slides in a moment, but I thought we could start with the first question. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what made you want to become the editor-in-chief for the Journal of Commercial Vehicles.
Thank you very much. My education, my background is in vehicle dynamics, modeling and simulation of multi-body dynamic systems, and the vehicle-terrain interaction. So I am specializing in vehicle dynamics primarily for off-road vehicles. I started as an assistant professor at Virginia Tech in 2003. I think I started joining on a regular basis the SAE Commercial Vehicles Congress in 2004. So I have been involved in the Chassis and Suspension Committee at that time, in organizing events. So I learned how to, write papers, review papers, and of course, it's very important in academia to publish journal papers as well. So looking for venues to publish my work, I came across, SAE as being a wonderful venue. And when I have been invited in 2010 to become the editor-in-chief of the newly, I think, launched journal, I was very happy to do it. So I started as editor-in-chief of the journal in 2010. And it has been a joy since then. We have gone through several changes, moving from a more transactions format to a more real journal format. And I can talk about that in the next few minutes.
Excellent. Did you, so you had some slides you wanted to share with the audience today, is that right? Excellent.
Yes.
And I see in the chat window, Kim says that she's not able to hear anything. Kim, was that fixed for you, or can anyone else confirm for us? Okay, good. Obviously, we want to make sure you can hear her interview. So yeah, why don't you walk us through some of the resources you pulled together for us?
Wonderful. So again, it is my pleasure to be here today and to say a few words about the SAE International Journal of Commercial Vehicles. I will start with the scope of the journal. It is very important when you're looking for publishing your work to select the right venue, because by selecting the right venue, you reach out to most of those who are interested in your work. So you reach the right audience. So the scope of the SAE International Journal of Commercial Vehicles is to showcase state-of-the-art engineering research by promoting high-quality theoretical and applied investigations. The journal achieves this goal by publishing only those peer-reviewed scientific articles on the design, modeling, controlling, and testing of commercial vehicles that bring strong empirical and theoretical contributions to the current and future body of knowledge. So this is very important. It presents the context in which we are judging the topics as well as the content of the paper. Right away, I want to mention that the journal is indexed in several sources. I know this is very important for a lot of our authors. One of the very first things that someone asks me when they ask if their paper is suitable for a journal is where is the journal indexed in, because it is more and more relevant for the employer of those people to appreciate their work. So I just wanted to mention the places where our journal is indexed here. I have been very fortunate to work with a wonderful group of associate editors. Right now, we have 15 associate editors from a variety of companies, as well as from academia, from all over the world, primarily from from US, but we also have people from Canada, and our authors are definitely from all over the world. I appreciate everybody's contribution. They are each assigned to specific topics. So I will move on next to showing you those topics, but because of their expertise, they will each receive papers to handle in their respective area of research. Some of the topics we covered, and of course, we can always add new topics as the science and the technology advances. Some of the topics are listed here. We are dealing with vehicle aerodynamics, vehicle dynamics, stability and handling, electronics and mechatronics, and again, all of them related to commercial vehicles. Performance optimization and reliability, powertrain and energy efficiency, design, architecture, energy recovery, system simulations, vehicle terrain interaction and terrain characterization, advanced concepts and technologies, automated or autonomous and connected vehicles, agricultural construction, mining vehicles. I would add military vehicles to this as well, crashworthiness, some fuels and lubricants, but again, all of these are related to commercial vehicles. So if we feel that we receive a paper that is definitely a very good journal paper, but it is in the general area of, for example, noise, vibration, and hardness, not necessarily something particular for commercial vehicles, then we may redirect that paper to the respective journal within SAE. So I'm allowing you to read the rest of the list here. I already mentioned that the journal started in 2009. There are 2 volumes published that year. And it started by publishing the best papers accepted and presented at the SAE Commercial Vehicles Congress. They were typically accepted simply based on the session organizer's recommendation. That recommendation was based on the recommendations of the 3 reviewers who reviewed the paper. There were several questions that were raised through the years between 2009 and when we finally became a journal that will only accept direct submissions as journal papers. The questions were as such, when the papers were reviewed for the conference, they were reviewed as conference papers. So they may have been excellent conference papers, but when you publish them in a journal, you need to have that archival value. And I can talk a little bit more later on about what we consider to be an excellent journal paper versus an excellent conference paper or standalone technical paper. Since 2010, we pretty much published 2 issues per year. In the last 4 years, we published more. And you have the number of issues here and the number of papers published in each year. We went through a lower volume of papers published in 2020. I don't know if that's related to the COVID pandemic or not, but we are definitely on an increasing slope in terms of the number of submissions, and we hope to keep that growth constant. I mentioned earlier that it's very important for our authors to know the quality of the journal or the metrics by which a journal is being judged. And I included on this slide some of the statistics or the metrics for our journal. As you can see on the left side of the screen, you have the impact score from 2014 until last year. Typically, the impact scores for the previous year appear in about June of the year, the next year. So for 2021, they will appear in June of 2022. We have had a pretty good increase in our impact score. I put a note here, the impact score, for those of you who might not necessarily be very familiar with this is equivalent to the average number of times documents published in a journal in the last 2 years have been cited in the current year. We are doing very well in terms of the quartile. We are considered in the second quartile of all automotive engineering related journals. The CITE score for 2020 was 2.8, which measures the average citations received per document published. The SNP number, which is the source normalized impact per paper number for 2020 was 0.973. The SGR is 0.5. And of course, we definitely want to increase our statistics, but I would add that I always want to see growth done in a very organic manner. So we hope to increase the statistics by simply encouraging everyone to submit more papers, to submit higher quality papers, and for us to maintain the standards, the high standards that we have for publishing papers here. The age index, you're probably more familiar with that. The age index for the journal is 20. That means at least 20 papers received more than 20 citations. I just asked Erin to give me some statistics for our journal and in general for SAE journals, just to place our journal in the context of all the other SAE international journals. So for the last 3 years, you have here the number of total submissions for all the SAE journals, which, for example, grew from 475 to 558 in 2021. There was a higher number in 2020, 573. And how many journal papers were accepted in each one of these years in total. And in parentheses, you have the percentage of the accepted papers out of the total number of papers. The SAE International Journal of Commercial Vehicles received 34 submissions in 2019, 56 in 2020, and as of November 3rd, we received 67 papers. So by the end of the year, we'll probably have slightly more. So this is very encouraging for us to see the number of papers submitted increasing. And again, I hope that this will be the trend to continue. The percentage by which we accepted, and to tell you the truth, I didn't even calculate that until I was preparing for this presentation. We accepted 13 papers in 2019, 29 in 2020, and 42 in 2021. We meaning myself and the associate editors, we looked at the quality of the paper. We didn't aim for a specific acceptance percentage. So, if we ended up with more high quality papers, we just accepted them. So the percentage of all the SAE journal papers accepted from our own journal grew in the last 3 years from 6.34 to 11.83 to 16.93. So I think that that's a good trend to keep, and also in the context of having more submissions, we'll probably get to a lower percentage of accepted papers as we will try to not only maintain but maybe increase the standards by which we accept these papers. There is one thing I would like to mention here. We often received papers who are very good technical papers, but myself or the associate editors or the reviewers don't find the paper to be suitable for a journal. And I can talk a little bit more about the difference between them later. But what we do at that time is we do not reject the paper. We recommend the paper to be transferred and to be published as a standalone technical paper. So I'd like everybody to keep that in mind because if we come across a good technical paper, it will have another venue of being published if it is not suitable for a journal. I know there were a few special issues mentioned earlier. I'm trying to remember if this 2016 was the first special issue when we included the best of the papers presented at COMVAC. And then we had a special issue on recent advances in commercial vehicles in terms of energy efficiency published last year. We had another special issue with the best of COMVAC last year as well as this year. We have an open call for papers right now on a special issue on recent advances in vehicle cabin air quality, measurement, control, and development of test methods. And we also have an open call for papers now for a special issue on 2022 COMVAC papers. I also want to mention that I recently nominated one of the articles published in our journal for the Colwell Merit Award for SAE to award that to the authors of one journal that was published recently in our journal. This is a link, and I'm sure most of you know how to reach the SAE journals, but I figure I will also mention it here. It's very easy to submit a paper. You need to log in as an author, select the type of paper you want to submit. Could be a research paper, could be a review paper, or another type. I think we have technical notes, for example, that you can select. So you select the type of paper you want to submit, and then you follow the instructions. So I'll stop the presentation here, and I'll be happy to get questions. I guess Angie has some questions for me, and let me stop sharing the screen.
No problem.
I would like to address the difference. I think maybe that's a good thing to start with, because we talked about very good journal papers, very good technical standalone technical papers. So when we accept a paper, for example, for a conference to be presented at an event, we look to see that the study is interesting for the intended audience, that the results seem to have a significant technical value, they have merit. It could be that maybe the study is not necessarily complete, maybe it's work in progress, maybe it's a problem that's a very specific problem that a certain individual or company addressed. But it's something of interest to the audience. A conference paper does not necessarily have to go into deep details about the state of the art, prior publications in that area, and to have like the whole complete research done on that topic. When we are preparing a journal paper, we want to see those elements in there. You have to put your work in the context of everything that has been done before. How is this new? How is this very relevant? And how will these actually survive the time and have an archival value years from now? We need to have a detailed technical derivation such that somebody else may be able to if at all possible, reproduce your results. There is something that people can learn from it. You're not presenting only results, you're presenting methodology, you're presenting as much as you can, of course, within the space limit that we have for a paper. So these are things to keep in mind. We usually look for complete studies to be presented in journal papers. So you may have the theoretical, the experimental, the validation part, which may not necessarily have to all be there for a very good standalone technical paper. And I'll stop here to allow you some
Yeah,
questions.
no, that's perfect. And I know we talked about that a few weeks ago. I think my follow-up to that, when we were discussing the difference between a technical paper and a journal article, why is it not only important to publish those types of researches, but why is it also important to read it?
It's absolutely important to read, to stay up to date with everything that is being published in your area. First of all, because you really want to be informed of the newest advances, and obviously for someone who's interested in vehicle mobility in general, and then in more specific areas, you definitely have to access the SAE journals and to see what industry does, what other people in academia do. You have to stay up to the current state of the art. But further, of course, it's important for researchers to know what has been done, so they'll know where to add, where to continue, which are the most challenging aspects that they can further research. It's often from reading a paper that some ideas spark in your brain and say, oh, I think I have an idea of how to do this. And that's how you move one step forward. I think it's very important to do both. Publish what you're doing because you want people to know of the advances that you're making in that area, and read because you want to keep yourself up to date and because you want to identify the missing pieces of the puzzle so you can contribute to those.
That makes complete sense. And it's interesting because when we talk about standards, it's often cases we don't want to duplicate efforts in certain technologies, but it sounds like even you want to read and stay up to date on research technology as well for the same purpose. So you're not duplicating efforts and instead helping advance it. I did have a question about the special issues from earlier this year. I think hybrid power systems was one topic that was focused on, along with energy management strategy. And those were special issues published in 2021. What are you excited about with those special issues and maybe even those technologies?
It's an excellent question. I think that we are always very open to bring in people with expertise in certain areas that can help us highlight the state of the art in their respective area, because they are the experts and they know exactly what the industry is currently interested in, and they want to make sure that people have a way of finding that kind of information in like in one special issue. And that's great because you go to this one issue and you find a number of papers, not one paper per issue in a specific given topic. I think there are certain areas of research right now that are definitely of high demand in many areas. Energy is obviously one of them. Autonomy is another one. And machine learning applied to different areas is another one. So we are trying to present and bring in those special issues on topics that we think a lot of people will be interested in, that are relevant to today's state of the art. And of course, some of these are being initiated within the within the editorial board, and others are initiated by experts from the outside. So if someone is interested in leading as a guest editor a special issue, they can always contact us and they can come up with a plan. We have a template for proposing special issues, and we can work with those guest editors on that special issue. I think we'll continue to do so. We know that the special issues attract a lot of people who may not otherwise necessarily submit their paper to our journal because maybe they didn't come across enough papers in their area in our journal. But if they see that we are interested in this topic, and usually the papers in special issues get more visibility, then they will be, submitting something to the special issue, and they may remain loyal authors and submit to future issues. So we are definitely looking forward to having more calls for papers on topics that are of interest to our constituents.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. And thank you for sharing that. Are there any special issues that are coming up soon you're excited about?
For now, we have the 2 calls for papers that
Mhm.
I mentioned earlier, and I'm excited because I think they are, of course, the SAE special issue. We are trying to keep that up, and we're trying to work with the authors, like I mentioned earlier, to have papers who might be good for standalone technical papers published as such if they do not get into the special issue. But I am actually even more excited to invite people to submit recommendations or to volunteer to lead future special issues. I think the more people we get involved, the broader we can advertise them and receive more papers in those areas.
Yeah,
So
that's
I
excellent.
definitely am. I'm very excited about the upcoming, 2 special issues. I think that they, one is thematic. So with a thematic special issue, you explore in depth a certain topic. The other one will bring together a variety of papers that are of relevance to commercial vehicles, but they might be, on different topics. Each one of them. Yes.
Yeah. Are you are you finding that some of the topics for some of these future issues and kind of maybe where research is going as well, do you find that it crosses maybe commercial vehicles, ground vehicles, maybe even aerospace materials at times? Do you find that to happen?
Oh yes, there are many papers that address very fundamental issues
Yeah.
that could be very relevant to passenger cars, to commercial vehicles. There are papers, for example, that we publish on tire modeling. And those are definitely relevant
Yeah.
for a variety of types of vehicles. And then there are also more recently, papers on sensing,
Hmm.
or on control, or so I think it's definitely not a very strict delimitation
Right.
between the journals, and it's not uncommon. Sometimes authors may think that, okay, I'll submit to this journal. If I find that maybe that paper would be better suitable to another SAE journal, I would recommend the transfer. We again, I want to emphasize this. We are trying to reach the best audience for your paper. So when you are contacted by SAE to ask you, would you agree that we transfer your paper from commercial vehicles to passenger cars? We probably do it because we feel like that's a better audience for your paper.
Right. Yeah, and that makes sense. Okay. So we actually covered all the questions that I had. I learned a great deal actually about how the journals are managed, how you're accepting those various journal articles, and how you're looking to expand it as well. Do you have any final thoughts for the attendees today?
Well, I definitely want to encourage everyone to consider submitting your work to, of course, with no
Yeah.
no bias here, to the SAE International Journal of Commercial Vehicles, but please do submit to SAE journals. We rely on our authors to publish high quality research. And the more work we receive, the higher the visibility, the higher the impact. The higher the impact, the more people will submit. So it's a circle. It has to start with someone. We've done a lot of legwork to be where we are, and I am deeply appreciative of all the work that SAE did to bring the journals to be recognized as journals and not as transactions. And we appreciate, excuse me, everybody's contribution to the journals as well as to the SAE technical papers. If there are any questions in the chat, I didn't have a chance to read them.
So it
I'll be happy.
looks like Kim actually was able to answer a lot of the questions that a few of our attendees. So I don't have anything open. Let me just double check. I don't have anything open at this time. Kim Martin, our editor for our journal collection, is also joining us in the audience, which I'm appreciative of because she's able to answer a lot of questions too that come in. But yeah, nothing else from the chat window, Corina. I really appreciate all of your volunteered time and putting together all those resources as well for our audience. Thank you so much for doing that.
I appreciate the opportunity, and I really look forward to having more conversations.
Yeah.
If we have questions that people want to send me offline, you can collect those, and I'll be happy to
Absolutely.
answer them. So again, thank you, everybody. Appreciate the time and the interest.
Yeah.